mean to build a legacy on your own terms? Hi, welcome to Legacy Her Way, the podcast where women are defining, building, and living legacies on our own terms. I'm your host, Tanya Hendrix. Each week, we're going to dive into real stories, fresh strategies, and inspiring conversations that help you create a future that reflects who you are and what you value most. This is about legacy, your way. So let's get started. This episode is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, where we empower your vision and secure your future through estate planning and trademarks. So let's talk about legacy, her way, your way. And today we're talking about how Sarah Cummins is building legacy. Today's guest is someone who is building her legacy through life and wellness. Sarah Cummins is the founder of Waterfall Yoga Therapy. Waterfall Yoga Therapy offers a sabbatical from routine and responsibility to be nurtured, re-identify with your purpose, and emerge empowered with new skill sets for stress and pain management to sustain a life of wellness. Sarah's life experiences have led her to a soul-felt mission to help others heal their physical, mental, and emotional pain and live a life of joy. Waterfall Yoga Therapy offers an escape in Northeast Alabama to a place of serenity and peace with a waterfall and an opportunity to let nature heal the soul. Her practice is a blend of yoga, teachings, neuroscience, and Ayurvedic wisdom. I hope I pronounced that correctly. When you work with Sarah, thank you. When you work with Sarah, you will be sure to reach your health goals with her accountability and compassion every step of the way. There are several ways you can work with Sarah, which they will be in the show notes. So stick around to the end and watch and listen to the show notes. Look at the show notes. Some of those ways include private yoga therapy programs, in-person or telehealth, group classes, retreats, or on-demand videos. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you to be here today to talk about your wellness journey, your health journey, and how you are using that to build legacy in yourself and others. So I want to start off, I just want to dive right in and ask, why yoga? I know that you've got a personal story as to why you started practicing yoga and now you teach yoga, that I think that will give listeners a little bit more information about you. So why did you start yoga?
Sure. Well, I was a military spouse for 22 years. I got married pretty young. I've been with my husband since I was 16. And he joined the Air Force, and we just moved all over the world. So for about 8 years, it was just him and I. And then I got pregnant and we had our son. And at that time, he was in combat communications, which for an Air Force person deploys a lot. They deploy with the Army Special Forces and deploy during natural disasters or, of course, at war. And then the communications guy sets up comms before the military comes in. So he was gone a lot after we had our son. And I was a single parent. I didn't sleep well because my baby didn't sleep well. And so I think just not being near family, not having anyone to help, when he got sick, I got sick. It was a lot. And then my husband was always deployed during really stressful times. So I think it took a toll on my body, and my body started reacting with all kinds of inflammatory conditions. Of course, I'd go to a doctor and they'd be like, you just need some anxiety pills and maybe some antidepressants. And I, of course, refused all those things because I needed to be a mom first and foremost. And so I also didn't think it was the answer. I felt there was something wrong with my body, but all the tests kept saying everything was fine. So they just assume everything is fine and can try to fix it with a pill. So I think that's kind of what led me to yoga. Is I already had some experience doing it, and I was really trying to solve the problem through meditation, through breathing practices and stress management. And yoga was a great outlet for that. Of course, my Christian faith also. I would talk to God and ask him to help me or to give me some way out of the situation I was in and help me get through what was difficult. And so in that process, I think he led me to yoga. And it was later on that I had a friend who was like, you should come to yoga class with me. And so I went to a yoga class that we were in Montgomery, Alabama at the time. And it kind of encouraged me, I guess, to go to teacher training and see what that was about. And that was really a deep dive into who I am, who I want to be, what my purpose was beyond being a mom and a military spouse. And so through that, I started to feel better. I think I had something, one, to distract me from, the difficulties of being a mom and a military spouse and having to change my life up every couple of years, every time we moved. And it kind of gave me some new inspiration, some new empowerment that I could do these things for myself, and I wouldn't always have to reach outside of myself to look for someone else to heal me. And in that process, I think it helped me grow up a lot and realize that my identity wasn't necessarily just being a mom and just being a military spouse. I started to feel better. I started to have more confidence in myself. So I started teacher training, and I had a mentor also in Montgomery, and she was like, if I was your age, she was a retired Air Force nurse, I would go the way of the route of yoga therapy because that's the way of the future. And so at that time, we were getting stationed in Germany, and I started looking for programs while I was there so that when we moved back to the United States, I could get this extensive training in how to become a yoga therapist. And while I was there, I worked for an Army clinic in the PT center. And within the PT center, they were trying to help veterans by creating a program for people who had PTSD, who had traumatic brain injury, who had severe injuries from combat and were in chronic pain. And so when I worked with them, I taught the yoga for that portion of the program. And it really helped me kind of further that inspiration of working one-on-one with people versus group sessions, which I still did at that time. And I've had some amazing clients who were really very, very sick or very injured, and the profound ways that yoga helped them really inspired me in working with people who just can't do normal yoga, who can't show up in a class and do yoga with everyone else. And so that led me to working with some really complicated cases and seeing the growth that they made with yoga, being able to get back to doing life the way that they wanted to, the life that they deserved. And so that was really an inspiration to definitely head down that path of yoga therapy, because you get this extensive training, and the extensive training helps direct you to work with a specific group of people. So I chose chronic pain because that had been my experience, and post-traumatic stress because my husband suffers from that as well. And so my further training through somatics and through working with people who have PTSD and trauma kind of helped me fine-tune my path, because I had felt the healing within myself. My husband, of course, had used cognitive behavioral therapy and some of these yoga practices also to improve his post-traumatic stress. And it really was just the inspiration for how I had healed myself to be able to help heal others.
Mm-hmm. I think that we find that to be so true, that something that we've experienced, we end up taking and turning to helping others. I know you talked about a Christian faith. I think that's one of the things that when we go through something as people of faith, I think anybody though, whatever it is that you've been through, sometimes should, maybe not always, but sometimes should be that thing that we take and like, I learned this so that I can help others. And that's what you have done and you've taken, which I think is incredible. I do want to talk about though, for just a second. You talked about working with people who have PTSD, and you said specifically, like with the military, we have a lot of women listening to this podcast. We do have men, but mostly women. And I know we do have women vets and women military spouses who also suffer through some PTSD. But have you also worked with and seen your yoga therapy help women who have been through other traumas, such as sexual assault, domestic violence, those types of issues?
Yes, absolutely. I've worked with quite a few women who struggle with a lot of different things, like even like workplace sexual harassment, for example, mothers who have adult children who are alcoholics or drug addicts, who they really want to help their child, but their child's an adult and they're kind of in this place where they're stuck, and that child might reach out to them because they trust their mom. And so their mom is going through this experience of addiction with them. And so, yeah, all kinds of experiences like that. Yeah. As mothers, we are, the caretakers of everyone, right? We end up taking care of our parents. We take care of our children. We take care of our spouses. We take care of people at work. We're always out there helping people. And so, while a lot of my practice helps women, I have about equal parts men and women right now. And that's a great thing, right? That men or the husbands of these women are also seeing, wow, there is benefit to doing yoga type practices, that it's not just for women.
And I know yoga has oftentimes been maligned, particularly, I grew up in the evangelical Christian faith, and yoga was a taboo thing to talk about or to do. What do you want more? And I know you talked about being in the Christian faith as well. What do you want more people to know about yoga? And I know you talked about the benefits, but that it's not some creepy, weird thing.
Yeah, good question. Especially here in the South. Yeah. And I ran into this in the Midwest as well. So it's not just a Southern thing, but yoga is a philosophy. It's not a religion. So I oftentimes have to clarify that. And I try to make it very clear on my website that I am also a Christian. And, yes, did I question these things when I started learning about yoga and question some of the things I was learning? Absolutely. But I was taught very, very early on in my faith, which I came to as an adult in my early 20s, is that when we are taking or choosing to take a faith, especially as an adult, a lot of us grow up learning our faith, and that's how we stay within that realm or that religion. As an adult, I was able to make that choice for myself. I could look at things and go, I don't know. I'm questioning that, right? And I am Catholic. I had a priest actually say to me, never stop questioning, never blindly believe anything. And so when I go into something and I'm learning something new, I am always asking questions. I teach a lot about neuroscience, and science is fascinating, right? But it's like, you have to be, if you're going to be a scientist, you ask a lot of questions. So I kind of go into faith like that. And I truly believe that God was leading me on the path of yoga because it had the answer to my problem. And I also believe that teaching yoga therapy, teaching people these skill sets is God's purpose for me. And that's why he kind of dropped these little breadcrumbs throughout my early life to lead me to the place that I am now. Because before, I never would have believed that I had the courage to say these things, to talk to people about these things, to stand up in a group of people or be on a podcast and talk about these things, because I was shy, and it helped me build the confidence I needed. And I truly believe that God gives us lessons and sufferings in our life so that we can help others. And so in that process, yes, I asked a ton of questions early on. I took things with a grain of salt. Sometimes you're learning about other things that I don't think really pertain to yoga philosophy when you're in a teacher training, especially depending on what type of teacher training you're taking to become a yoga teacher. And I just learned to have my own thought process around it. When I look at the philosophy of yoga, it's non-harming, contentment with where you are, study the self. A lot of the things that we're learning in yoga philosophy are exactly what I was learning in Bible and in the Bible and in Bible studies and in church. So for me, it was just a way to actually expand my faith and to make me believe and trust in God even more.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important, that you're walking in your purpose. And that has, even though the world around you or some of the world around you is saying one thing about yoga, you're like, no, I'm walking my purpose. This is what God has led me to. And it just shows that you can take whatever God has given you, whatever skills and abilities, and in whatever path, and use it for his benefit, because you're helping so many people overcome the chronic stress, the PTSD, the different things that you talked about, and we're going to talk about a little bit more. But I want to just highlight that you can walk in your purpose even in a field that some people kind of give a side eye to or glance to, and don't see it so much as a mission field, which I'm not saying you've made this your mission field, but it's you're working in your purpose. And when you're walking in your purpose, that is your mission. So I do want to talk about Waterfall Yoga Therapy. Tell us, where did Waterfall Yoga Therapy come from?
Well, let's see. In 2014, when I was getting my yoga teacher training, I was getting my LLC to start the business. We still had quite a few years left in the military, and we knew we were going to be moving every couple of years. So we had already decided that Alabama was likely going to be the place where we would retire. Not particularly Montgomery, but we did spend a lot of time in our military career there. So we started looking up in the Huntsville area because my husband is an engineer. My son has always been engineering oriented, and so we thought this was a great place for that. It's also was turning into a very progressive city, and so that would be good for my business too, right? In the conversation we just had. And so we started looking for land in 2014 up here, and we found a piece of land out in Newmarket, which is northeast Huntsville, and it has a waterfall on it. And we didn't know that at the time. We had picked 20 of the 40 acres the gentleman was selling. It has a beautiful mountain backdrop. It is gorgeous and serene and peaceful. And so we went ahead and purchased the 20 acres, had went back to Montgomery. And while they were doing the process of paperwork, the real estate agent who was our real estate agent here in Huntsville, she went and hiked the property and found that there was a waterfall on it. And we could hear running water, but we thought it was a stream because it had been a very rainy winter. And I was like, no kidding, that's crazy. So my husband was like, you're getting your LLC. What are we going to name it? And his idea was we name it Waterfall Yoga. At the time, I wasn't a yoga therapist, so that came later. And with the idea that we would bring the peace and serenity that we felt when we came to visit the land into my business. And waterfalls are an incredible natural occurrence that brings in the elements that I want to bring into the practice, that we can go with the flow, that we can change and transform and move around objects and obstacles that are in the way. And of course, the amazing benefits of waterfalls, from the sound, the negative ions, and being in nature, and all those wonderful qualities. So when that happened, fast forward a few years, I'm in yoga therapy training, and I was in a meditation with my yoga for addiction teacher, Durga Leela. And when we were in that meditation, she was talking about go to your inner sanctuary. And I had realized in that moment, I kind of had an epiphany that all my life I had been drawing pictures of waterfalls since I was a little girl,
Oh,
writing
wow.
poetry about them, writing short stories about waterfalls. And so I'm in there meditating in my waterfall, which I had always done my whole life. When I would dream of something, I'm laying by a waterfall. And I thought, oh my goodness, God gifted me this waterfall. Like he put this in my path, not even looking for it, not asking for it necessarily. But, in reality, I had been kind of manifesting this my whole life. And God was thinking, oh, how can we turn this into a powerful purpose for her? And so in that moment, it was just this huge moment of gratitude. I knew that God was telling me I was on the right path, and that yoga therapy was a way for me to really help people by meeting them where they are in their journey. So if 95% of my clientele is Christian, I'm in the South, right?
Yeah.
But meeting them where they are. So if you believe in God, then we're going to bring that into the path of your healing process, right? If you don't believe in God, then, we don't have to go there. But we find other ways to talk about spirituality because it is an important part of who you are. It's not just your
Mhm.
physical body that has chronic pain. It's your emotional body. It's your energy. It's it's your spirituality. What are your belief systems? How can we pull everything together into how you heal, not just look at the physical element that you're feeling, the symptoms that you're feeling?
So, how do you envision waterfall yoga therapy and your approach, this kind of holistic approach of, or using spirituality, using neuroscience, somatics, yoga, everything coming together? How do you envision waterfall yoga therapy becoming a model or a legacy in healing and wellness?
Hmm. Well, it's really Ayurveda and yoga are ancient wisdoms, right? And now we have all the science behind it. They're doing so many yoga therapists, especially, is a huge growing field. A lot of people don't know what it is or how it differs from yoga, but there's a huge amount of research happening right now on neuroscience, how the brain changes when we live in chronic pain, how we can use tools and techniques like breathing practices, stress management techniques, the idea of all of neuroscience, how we can use meditation to change the brain and visualization. So I think that the legacy really is in I teach people what yoga therapy is. I teach people how to use the tools of yoga therapy to heal themselves. And then I watch them go out and they teach their kids these things. They teach their parents these things. They teach their spouse these things. They teach coworkers. And that's so cool to hear my clients come back to me and be like, you know what? I taught my child this today.
Nice.
And now I see them using it, and it's really, I think that's the legacy is the information that I can put out into the world, these experiences that I can help these people have in their body to help them realize that I don't have to go outside of myself to heal. My body wants to heal itself. My body wants to let go of these traumatic experiences. But trauma it happens in the physical body. It happens in your nervous system. And so to be able to have these mind body experiences as a healing tool, I think that's the legacy. How do we teach more people about the ancient wisdom, but also the science that's coming up? And Huntsville is huge on science, right? We're filled with
Yes.
rocket scientists and engineers, right? So I think science is a huge proponent of that. How do I teach these people that, yeah, yoga has been seen in the past as being very woo, but look at all this evidence that it was right all along, right? And
Mhm.
how do we bring what was Eastern medicine, Eastern tradition into Western culture?
So, how do you do that? I know that you offer goal oriented or long term programs. You have some programs that are a month long, you have some that are a year long, you offer retreats. how do the time frames that you have set up with your yoga practice, your therapy, how do these time frames help support sustained change and a legacy of wellness habits for the people who either attend retreats, who work with you one-on-one, whether it's a short-term or long-term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have programs for private yoga therapy. If it's just a small problem, which in all honesty, most of the people that come to me have been having problems for a very long time, and they're reaching out to me because they want a more holistic approach, and everything else that they've tried doesn't work or hasn't worked, or they're up against, I need surgery or another steroid shot. What do I do? I don't want to do this path anymore. Is there an alternative to that? And so they're reaching out to me for that. So the 1 month program is only 3 sessions within that month. It's not a really long time for people to establish a good habit or a change in lifestyle, right? So I present these longer programs where you work with me for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or longer. I have some people who stay with me for years, and mainly for maintenance, to kind of keep them on task and to be their accountability partner through the change. But in addition to that, it's when we're working with changing lifestyle habits, when we're working with long-term chronic inflammatory conditions or chronic pain issues or even trauma, these things take time to heal, right? It's not a magic pill. I can't just, wave a magic wand over you and boom, you're healed, right? That's not this type of work. The type of people that come see me, they have to be ready to do the work, to make the changes in their lifestyle that are going to dramatically change the way that they feel, the way that they approach life, the way that they perceive their pain. And so the longer programs I find are usually most successful, like say, 3 to 6 months, because that's long enough to work with someone to help them attain their own habits, creating these new habits in their own life so that they don't have to have someone hold their hand through it all. But we also know that you and I were changing every day, right? The only thing constant is change. And so I have clients who will come to see me for a particular problem, and they work with me for a couple months, and they're like, okay, I got this under control. And then, a parent dies, or they get a divorce, or they retired. And now they're like, I don't know what my purpose is anymore. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. They have a new problem, right? So they'll come back and they'll see me, and they may get some new skill sets, but they have that accountability through the process. Okay, let's talk about it. And sometimes we do a lot of talking. Sometimes we do a lot of practices and in an embodiment practices like somatics. But it's different for everybody. That's why I love it. It's a very individualized approach. So if I have 3 people coming to me with low back pain, all 3 of them have low back pain for a different reason. So they're not going to get the same treatment.
What services do you offer? I know you have the one-on-one therapy, but you also have events. You also have some on-demand videos. So tell us what all you offer.
Yeah. Well, the on-demand videos kind of was sprung out of COVID when we were all separated for months on end. And I had already started doing virtual sessions to work with people outside of where I lived at the time, seeing how I changed my location every couple of years. But it was also kind of growing my business too. I wanted to create another, working one-on-one with someone is usually a premium expense, right? You're going to pay more to have that one-on-one treatment. So the on-demand was kind of the baby I created out of how do I create something that's a little more affordable, but for people who have these issues that I work with, like anxiety, chronic pain, etc. And so the on-demand videos are kind of what sprung out of workshops and things that I was teaching at the time. And and created a more affordable option for people. It wasn't tailored individually, but it covered like the main things that I work with people on.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition to that, I started doing retreats when we were stationed in Germany, and I absolutely loved it because bringing women together, like-minded women, creating community. Community is really, I think, one of God's purposes for me. Is everywhere I went, I created community. One of my first legacies I left behind was in Colorado Springs at Peterson Air Force Base. And my husband had been deployed previously, and I had a toddler. We moved, and I was like, I am not living in the country. I want to live on base. I want to have my community. I want to build community and not be alone this time when you leave. And so when I left there, my legacy was a mom's group, basically.
Yeah.
We'd get together and have the kids play. And of course, we would enjoy each other's company and not be alone. And so that, I believe, still goes on today.
Nice.
And so, yeah, so just, I think creating community is a big part of what I do. So that's why I love doing the retreats. I love empowering women. And retreats, I do like group retreats. Like I have one coming up in November, but I also do private retreats. So that's kind of an interesting little niche. I started getting requests by women like, I just had this happen to me, and this has been a huge life change for me. I can't, expand myself for yoga therapy, but would you be able to kind of create a condensed version for me? And so that birthed this kind of boutique retreat thing where I've had women who come one-on-one, and it is like a yoga therapy experience, but squished into a few days or a week.
Wow.
And then I get massage therapists to come out. I get a chef, and they cook meals for them. And they get the experience of a retreat, but it's tailored just to what is happening to them. And so that kind of excited me to start doing empowered women retreats, self-care retreats, and things like that out here in nature. We have a labyrinth on the property. We, of course, have the waterfall and hiking through the woods. We have a beautiful space. I'm in my studio right now where when people come out here for a retreat, nature is part of that healing process. Or even if you come out here, I have 2 offices. I have one in Huntsville and one in Newmarket in my home. And whenever people come out here for private sessions, they get their session, and then they can go and they can be out in nature. So
Nice.
some
Very
people
nice.
bring journals and write. Some people like to read. I have a girl who brings her ukulele, and she goes out by the waterfall and plays her ukulele. So people make it what they want, right? But it's the experience is getting out of the city and being able to be in nature, to put your feet in the grass and be out with the birds and the deer and heal.
Very good. What if I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to wrap up. What advice would you give to someone who wants to build their health, not just for today, but as a legacy that they can pass on?
I think that's a good question. Probably one of the things that I teach most often is to learn to say no, especially as women. We are constantly being, will you help with this? Will you help with that? And then we're putting ourselves out there to help. And we're filling everyone else's buckets, but we're not filling our own bucket. And so to be able to, I think, be able to set boundaries, to be able to say no to things, to learn that is a huge part of it. But also, that's the thing with the Empowered Women's Retreat that's coming up November 7th through the 9th, is being able to fill your cup, to be able to let the other women within the community, and I keep these retreats very small and very intimate for a reason, but to be able to let them mirror and reflect the light within you, because sometimes our light is burning out. we're burning on all ends and we're exhausted, So to be able to create an experience where you can be in a community with people that want nothing more than to uplift you and to fill your cup while you're here, and then to give you the skill sets. Okay, so what happens? I can't be on a retreat every day of my life, right? I have responsibilities and I have my own goals. So it's like, how do I take these tools that I learn on a retreat in this intimate experience and implement them into life? And Mindful Monday was kind of born of that. So I didn't talk about that, but that's an event I have on Monday nights, every Monday at 6 p.m. And it's virtual. You can attend out here if you'd like, or you can attend virtually and from anywhere in the world. And Mindful Monday is intended to start your week off right. It's intended to take the things that you might learn in private sessions with me, or you might learn at a women's retreat, and be able to learn new skill sets every week and take that into your life and take that as a way of, how do I build mindfulness in everything that I do? If I'm playing with my kids, how do I be truly mindful to them during that time? If I'm spending time with my husband, what are some things that are more mindful experiences rather than sitting in front of a TV and watching Netflix or looking at our phones, right? And this is the life that we live in right now. So I want to give people skills that they can take into their businesses, that they can take into their home life, and help find that work-life balance and be truly intentional with the practices that they use for stress management, for nervous system regulation.
Mm-hmm. Well, as to your Mindful Mondays or Mindfulness Mondays, and to your retreats, to your events, how can people, or is there anything else that we haven't talked about as to the services you offer and the things that you can offer to the public, to any listeners?
Yeah, well, if you're looking for some free information, so Mindful Monday is affordable, right? It's like a group yoga class, so that's affordable. And I'm trying to create tiers of help so that people of all walks of life can learn the skills, right? So YouTube is one of my top free opportunities, right? You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Waterfall Yoga Therapy, and I post a new video every week. There's meditations on there, there's movement practices, there are breathing practices. In October, I'm going to do a 21-day Breath is Life challenge, because October is Healthy Lung Month. And so you can get on my YouTube channel and practice a different breathing technique every day. Another way to get free information is if you're wanting to practice visualization or meditation, but it's been a struggle for you. There's an app. It's the #1 meditation app according to New York Times, but it's Insight Timer meditation app. You can get it on your phone. You can get it on your computer. If you look up Waterfall Yoga Therapy, I think I have almost 20 different meditations on there, with a new one coming out in September. And one of them is learning how to meditate. I have a 5-minute meditation on there if you're a busy person and you just need a quick relaxation technique. That's another way to be able to utilize some of the skills that I teach for free as well.
Very good. Well, if you want to work with Sarah, you can go to waterfallyoga.llc.com. You can also find her on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Is that all under Waterfall Yoga?
Waterfall Yoga Therapy.
Okay. So you can find her at waterfallyoga.llc.com. Go to Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube for Waterfall Yoga Therapy. The Empowered Women Retreat is happening November 7th through the 9th of 2025. And this will be an opportunity for you to rejuvenate, heal, transform into the woman you want to be. So I'm assuming this is for women only. Is that correct?
Yes. This one is.
Okay. And then Sarah talked about the Mindful Monday. So the virtual Mindful Monday is every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. This is a weekly event that's going to, I think it probably is a great way to start off your week. So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me today and for all the help you've given us as to being mindful, as to taking care of our health and really thinking about how we take care of our health and understanding yoga a little bit better and the benefits that we can get from yoga. This has been very informative and helpful. So I want to thank you all for joining me on Legacy Her Way. If today's conversation spoke to you, please share it with a friend and make sure you are subscribed. So hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you want to keep building your legacy beyond the podcast, reach out to me, Tanya Hendrix. This has been Legacy Her Way. Share it, subscribe it, and most of all, keep defining legacy your way. Thank you.